Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ. Week 4 NFL slate on CBS. Hey, there's 5 undefeated teams left in the NFL. Vikings are among them. Steelers are among them. Chiefs are among them. You're going to see those 3 teams on our slate this week. All 5 teams are actually on the road, seeking to go 4-0. Old school football fans are rejoicing. Listen to this. The running game is back, at least through the first few weeks of the 2024 season. Saquon Barkley, Jordan Mason, J.K. Dobbins, Alvin Kamara, they're all topping big yardage numbers. 300 yards per game for some of those guys in the past 3 weeks, or 300 yards total, pardon me. The trio averages 223 pounds each. That's important because yards after contact is also up, as are the number of rushes for 10 or more yards. As we look at rushing this season, it's the highest through week 3 since. All right, so rush yards per game since 2020. Rush yards per rush, 4.43. That's the highest since 1958. I think Pete Prisco was in the first year of a job back then. In terms of the rush percentage, highest since 2008. But offense as a whole is down. Look at the points per game through week 3 in the last 5 seasons. As you see, it has been a steady decline in 2024 so far. It's at 21.2. All right, so let's dig into this with our team. Quarterback Danny Cannell, guard Kyle Long, defensive lineman Lige Douzable, and we can't do this without a running back. So, of course, we're bringing in our guy, Damien Harris, who's going to give us that running back point of view since we are talking about the rushing game. So, Damien, happy to have you along here. Okay, so you guys have seen the numbers. Danny rushing is up. Passing is down. Why?
I think what you're seeing unfold, the NFL is very cyclical. Like, I don't think this is the first time we've seen some of these numbers, ebb and flow. And a lot of it has to do with the chess match that takes place between offensive minds and defensive minds. And you know what happened? I think defensive minds got really tired of watching teams go for those big chunk plays, right? Going fast, airing it out, spreading you out, and saying, all right, we're just going to try to get those easy plays down the field. And so they've gone to much more of a too high, or a shell, but 4 guys deep, saying, you know what, we're going to keep everybody in front of us. So when you get that, you get a favorable numbers count on the offensive side of the ball, and so you take what the defense gives you and you start to run the ball. I don't think it's complicated. I think this is part of the ebbs and flows of the NFL, and I think that's exactly what you're seeing unfold, is this chess match.
Yeah, DK, you see it, the percentages since 2018, they've doubled in regards to too high plus safety. Look, you talked about that umbrella coverage in regards to 4 deep guys, 3 underneath, or that too high shell look with the 2 high safeties. And when I say too high shell, it means one safety is responsible for one deep half, the other safety is responsible for the other deep half. So right here, you see it on the graphic. One safety's deep right there to the right, one safety's deep to the left right there, and then you have 2 flat defenders at the corner position. Those corners are going to punch, rejam, reroute the receivers, then drop in coverage. Then you have 2 hook curl defenders, and then that Mike's going to get down the middle of the field. So to Danny's point, right, it's advantageous for the offense to run the football there. But I think defensive coordinators have also sat back and said, DK, you know what? I don't believe you can execute at a high level for 8 to 12 plays. Like, there's going to be a pre-snap penalty. There's going to be a holding. There's going to be a formation adjustment or a formation that's not lined up correctly that causes a penalty. So I'm going to be in this too high safety look or the umbrella coverage because I don't believe you'll have the patience to do this for 8, 9, 10, 12 plays without making mistakes. And a lot of defensive coordinators have had a lot of success by it. This is what it caused offenses to have that patience to run the ball constantly. We saw Patrick Mahomes kind of struggle with that earlier in his career and even struggle with it just a few weeks ago against the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, he tried to force the ball down the middle of the field to Travis Kelce, and it got picked off. Then after that, he was like, you know what, I'm just going to hand the ball off, take the underneath routes, and not force the ball down the field. So it's kind of been an evolution change with defensive coordinators saying, you know what, I don't believe you'll execute at a high enough level to do this consistently for 8 to 9, 10 to 12 plays.
Also, I think it's important to point out body types. When I first came in the league as an offensive lineman, it was 2013. My first few matchups were guys like Vontez Burfict and Ray Maluga, guys who were plugging the middle of the line of scrimmage, A-gap, B-gap. They had watermelons, pumpkins on their head, and they were going to come smack you. Now you got guys on the second level who are asked to do a lot in terms of coverage. So a lot of the times they've got their back to the line of scrimmage with the disguising of coverage and getting back, like you think about some of those Tampa 2 looks. When you're looking at a shell coverage, what the defensive coordinator is trying to do, which Lige OBJ put very eloquently is, we're going to challenge you to do this thing right a dozen times in order to score. When I was with the Chiefs, when they lost to Burrow in the AFC Championship, that offense was dynamic. They took hole shots. They were able to take the top off the defense. But people found out you can challenge a guy like Mahomes by frustrating him, making him take what the defense gives him. If that means running the football against with nickel runs, against that soft coverage, then so be it. The challenge is now on the offensive linemen. So smaller second-level defenders with the linebacker positions, but also offensive linemen are bigger. They're the biggest they've ever been, particularly at the guard and center positions. They look forward to smashing these guys when they go too high safety. It's a challenge. It's disrespectful when you know that that's how the defense is going to play. That's how you have to get them out of it. Run the football.
All right, let's bring a running back in on this. Damien, what do you think here in terms of the evolution of this, that the running back is kind of making the return?
Yeah, I think you guys are hitting the nail right on the head. I think the defenses are starting to develop more of a bend but don't break mentality. You guys hit on it perfectly. You got to drive the ball 8, 10, 12 plays without having penalties to set you back. You've got to be able to keep yourself from turning the ball over, trying to force the ball down the field. So defenses are definitely wary of that. I'll tell you another thing that defenses are wary of are all these receivers that are signing all these lucrative contracts, all these receivers signing these big deals. So you know what these guys, what these receivers bring to the table as far as catch and run after catch. And quite frankly, defensive coordinators don't want to see that anymore. And then on the flip side, we're talking about offensive linemen are bigger than they've ever been. Linebackers are a little bit smaller than they've ever been. They're asked to do more in coverage. Well, you've got more running backs that are 200, 230 pounds, 235 pounds that have game-breaking ability, that are more elusive, that are more shifty, that can run the ball in space, get to the second level, make safeties, make linebackers miss. You've got guys that aren't just getting the ball, hitting the A-gap and just trying to barrel through the A-gaps anymore. You've got guys like Ramondre Stevenson, who's every bit of 240 pounds, but as far as being elusive, he's one of the hardest guys to tackle. So I think that it's a transition of a lot of things, but I would definitely love to highlight the fact that running backs are just more talented. You see a guy at Saquon Barkley's size, you would never expect him to be able to move and be as elusive and be able to do the things and with the ball in his hands like he's able to. So it's a lot of different things, man, but these running backs are really talented and they're taking advantage of what the defenses are giving them. Linemen are doing their job. Backs have been, and you know, one thing that I think is important to note too, especially since I mentioned these receivers signing these big deals, these running backs got their deals done. Josh Jacobs got his deal done. Saquon Barkley got his deal done. Devin Singletary, DeAndre Swift, they got their deals done. They were there in OTAs and mandatory minicamp and training camp all throughout. These guys weren't holding out. So these guys were able to develop a rhythm. They're able to get in a groove at the start of the season, and that's a part of the reason why we're seeing these numbers be so high for running backs.
And certainly that stability is a big part of it too. I mean, Jacobs part of the Green Bay.
Absolutely.
Green Bay leads the league in rush yards per game so far through 3 games this season, and then we've seen what Saquon's been doing. But Damien, do you think that part of this has to do with quarterback play? Not to put Danny on the spot here, but I mean, do you think part of this has to do with quarterback play and the fact that running backs are physically a little bit different? Do you think we're returning to more of a bell cow style back after we've been dealing with running back by committee for the last number of years?
Absolutely. I definitely think we're going to transition back to this bell cow workhorse style offense where one guy is the primary and he takes the bulk of the load. Because like I said, again, I'll bring up a guy like Ramondre Stevenson, who's a guy who's not just good on first and second down. He blocks really well on third down. He receives really well out of the backfield. And with the lack of production from some of these quarterbacks, I mean, I think I actually saw a stat that out of all the starting quarterbacks that are making $50+ million on average per year, I think they're 7 and 11. And a lot of those guys aren't playing very well right now. So they're going to have to lean on these running backs. And adding the fact that these running backs are big, they're more physical, they're more talented, they're more elusive, they can do more things. We're seeing it now. They're relying, like, I'm pretty sure 80% of the New England Patriots offense runs through Ramondre Stevenson. Right now, the Philadelphia Eagles is running through Saquon Barkley. Same thing with the Packers and Josh Jacobs. So again, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Obviously, the running back position is getting a lot more talented. It's getting a lot more size, a lot more measurables to go with that talent. And yes, I think the lack of production in the passing game across the NFL as a whole is definitely making these teams lean on their running backs and depend on them more.
Tom Brady said something a few months ago this offseason. He said nobody's developing quarterbacks anymore. They're coming in and they're just trying to put them in systems and give them very basic reads. And a lot of that can be in the run game. And I also think what helps the running backs is the emergence of running quarterbacks. We're seeing more RPO scheme that came from the college level where it's a numbers game and you get that advantage. They have to respect the quarterback. And a lot of times we see quarterbacks running the ball better than ever before for either. Like a guy like Lamar Jackson, look at how effectively he runs the ball. You don't think that helps the backfield? Of course it does. Josh Jacobs, when Malik Willis has been in there, then run a little bit of that as well. I mean, everybody's running these schemes that really benefit the run game. I will say this, and this is probably something that bothers me more than most. The tackling today is atrocious.
It is.
Like, and so the defense, like offenses are like, all right, we're just going to keep running it and make you tackle us because no one practices anymore. You're not allowed to by rule. Everybody's playing 7-on-7, so they're more equipped and adept at tackling guys and recognizing route combinations. And when you come at them, it's like a lot of these guys want no part of that run game. So until they stop it, they're going to keep cramming it down their throat.
I think to add to that point, DK, you talked about it and you hit the head on the coffin as far as teams aren't tackling in camp. And then to take it one step further, when you talk about why quarterbacks haven't developed, guys aren't taking preseason reps, right? So we've also seen this evolution the last couple of years where coaches don't want to put their top guys in harm's way in regards to playing them during preseason and training camp. That's why we have so many of these cross practices with teams versus other teams. But I think that also hurts the development of your offense and quarterbacks in regards to building that continuity with receivers. Would not be surprised the next couple of weeks, because this essentially has been the preseason for a lot of these quarterbacks, these first 3 games, that we start seeing an uptick in regards to receiving yards and passing yards. Right? We talked about it today. We'll see if CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott can get on the same page, because they haven't been on the same page, which is so weird because they were literally in sync all last year. But we know CeeDee Lamb, to Damien's point, he was holding out for his contract, so he wasn't able to get those reps this offseason or throughout training camp. Same thing could be said for Jamar Chase. He started to finally get that continuity with Joe Burrow just last week in their Monday Night Football game. So would not be surprised if we start to see a slight shift in regards to quarterbacks getting that continuity with the receivers and those receiver numbers starting to go up these next couple weeks.
I just think it is doubly important to re-point out the fact that a lot of these quarterbacks are struggling right now because there is so much to look at in terms of coverage. There are so many places that could be the wrong place to throw the football. And what are you going to do when that's the case, especially with a rookie quarterback, a young guy? Hand the football off. And we've seen some of these offensive lines struggle to run the football. I think about Chicago. And now they're in that situation where they're a zero-dimensional football team. So running the football is the key to getting out of these shells, making defenses respect the line of scrimmage, and that opens up the big lanes, the big alleys down the field, Danny.
And to your point, Danny, I mean, helping a quarterback grow, you need to have that running. Look at the Bryce Young situation, right? Looking like a deer in the headlights for the first couple of games before he gets benched. You wonder how much of the fact that Carolina just had an inability to run the ball affected his development.
Absolutely, it crushed him. And I think that's one thing I think that if you're a Chicago Bears fan and wonder about Caleb Williams, you have to give it to him. I know Jalen Hurts wasn't a rookie, but look at how much success he had when the Eagles were able to run the football and had a great defense, and all of a sudden he gets a massive payday. Then he quite hasn't been exactly the same, and they're trying to do it, and they're doing a better job with Saquon. Now all of a sudden Jalen's playing better. So absolutely, it doesn't matter where you are, really, Jeremy, in your career as a quarterback, because there's really only about 3 guys, maybe 4 guys who can just put the team on their back and say, let's go. I don't care. We don't have to run it. The rest of the guys all need that to, be able to run the ball, play action pass, have a full complement around you, or else you're going to get exposed.
All right, let's ask Damien here. Damien, I want to get your top 5 running backs in the league right now. Give us your list.
Ooh, top 5. Ooh, we talking all around? We talking downhill runners? What are my qualifications?
Downhill runners.
Just strictly downhill runners. And when I think of a downhill runner, I'm thinking between the tackles, bam, bam, thank you, ma'am. That's what I'm thinking right there. So top 5. Here we go. I'm going to go Derrick Henry, number 1, just for obvious reasons. Nobody's more downhill than Derrick Henry. Christian McCaffrey when he's healthy. Ramondre Stevenson, New England Patriots. I mean, he's having some issues holding on to the ball right now, but other than that, he's playing spectacular right now. So once he fixes that, he'll be solid. Josh Jacobs. And then I got to go Saquon. I definitely got to go Saquon, especially because of what I've seen him do in Philly's offense. When I saw him in New York, he was doing a lot of bouncing. There was a lot of cutbacks, and that was because the Giants' offensive line wasn't really that great, and there wasn't a lot of holes for him to run through. But seeing Philadelphia be able to open up these holes, him running behind one of the best offensive lines in football, he's incredibly downhill. He's very decisive. He makes cuts well. I mean, he's doing a great job. So that's my top 5 there. What y'all think?
I like that. We were on the same page. I was writing on a makeup remover right here. You and I got the same list, my man.
Yeah, all right. The one guy you didn't put on it that we thought you probably should have put on Isaiah Pacheco.
You know, he is, and I would say he's probably right there behind these guys, but the only person I could see you interchanging him with maybe is Ramondre, just because, you know, Ramondre is more emerging on the scene. But if you go back and you look at the Cincinnati game against New England this season, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was absolutely running through the teeth of Cincinnati's defense, play in and play out. He's dragging linebackers. He's showing that corners can't tackle, that safeties don't want to tackle. I mean, absolutely giving body blows to the Cincinnati defensive front seven the entire game. So it's close. It's close. Pacheco is right. He's right there. He's right there. But I'm gonna go Ramondre. That's my dog. I'm gonna go Ramondre.
Let's do this. Danny wrote down the list. So
No, I was writing down his list.
Yeah,
I was making sure I had it.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Writing down the list. Let's go back at the end of the season and see if it's still the same list, because the game could evolve to what Lige said. Maybe we're going to see an uptick in passing yards the next couple weeks. Great stuff, guys, as we talk about the return of the running game to the National Football League, at least for the first few weeks of the season. Here's what our schedule looks like this weekend on CBS. As mentioned, 5 undefeated teams in the NFL. You're going to see 3 of them this week on our air in the 1 p.m. and 4:25 p.m. Eastern Time window on the network. If you like linear, if you go digital, head over to Paramount Plus.